Welcome back. And in the next few lessons, we're going to be making this kind of like a collar that screws in the bottom of our dog product here. So let's go ahead and get started. Go ahead and open up the previous project, Draft 4, and let's go ahead and save it as Draft 5. And there we go. So first off, let's go ahead, we can just hide this leash and let's do some cleanup here. So we've got our leash clips on. So let's just parent those to our dog head. So just shift click on both of those and then just drag them on top of that dog head, hold shift and parent them to that. And there we go. So it kind of cleaned up everything. Everything's tucked away inside of our dog head here, parented to it. And now let's add in the base kind of screw on bolt. And we're going to do that with the bolt factory. So let's go to side view with 3 and we'll go into see-through mode. And what we're looking for here is this cylinder. We want the base of our screw or bolt to land right below this here. That way there's enough room for everything inside of our dog head here. So what we want to do is put the bolt at the base of the cylinder. So let's tab into edit mode on our little cylinder roll here. And we're going to select the bottom face and do Shift S and move the 3D cursor to that selected spot. Now we can go back to object mode and we're going to create a bolt. So to do that, you want to make sure you have the bolt factory turned on in your add-ons, in your preferences. Just search for bolt factory here in the add-ons. I've already got it. So to activate it, we'll do Shift A to add and go all the way down to the bottom. Sometimes if you do it down here, you may have to kind of let it scroll with that little arrow, but you want to get bolt right there. Bloop. And notice a tiny little bolt appeared, but we need it to actually rotate and have the threading kind of pointing up. So we're just going to rotate the X 180. And the trick for the bolt factory is to never hit enter. You just want to click out of the box. If you hit enter, all this will go away and it will kind of confirm your bolt here. So we want to keep everything open as we're making changes. And for the head height, if you start scrolling that, notice it just makes the length of the bolt head bigger. So we can just put that to 10. And then for the distance, you just want it wider, a little bit wider than the base of your dog. So we could do maybe 45, maybe even just 40. We'll see what that does. So it's just a little bit wider and that's looking pretty good. But we have this tiny, tiny, tiny thread here. So what we can do is kind of just, increase the shank diameter. So notice the shank is this tiny little guy here. So if you turn it to 0, it kind of disappears, just turns into a little triangle, but we want it almost as big as our bolt. So maybe like 35. We could even do like 30. That's fine. There we go. So there is our diameter. You could also change the length if you wanted it. We don't need it that long. So 0 is fine for us today. And now we want the thread length. And we want it as short as possible. The shortest I can get it is down to 3. And that's just, how many threads going up. So 1, 2, 3. And the major diameter and the minor diameter. So these are going to work together to make our zigzags or our gauges for our screw here. So let's just increase maybe both of these at the same time. Whoop. So I'm just clicking in one and clicking and dragging down. And maybe do like 35. See what that does. So they're both equal. That way it looks like just a straight line. So the major needs to be bigger than the minor. So we'll just take the minor down to maybe 34. And there we go. So now we've got some little waviness action going here. And for the pitch, that's just, how steep is our angle. And for 3D printing, it's good to keep a rule of 45 degrees. So, somewhere in maybe even 1.5 for the pitch. That way we have nice 45 degree angles here like that. And that's looking pretty good. So I'm pretty happy with that. And that is the base of our kind of dog screw-on collar here we've got going. I may even drop this down ever so slightly, just a little bit, just to give us some space in between the bottom of our bag roll here. And one thing I'm noticing is that there's a huge gap right here because of our pitch. So let's just undo all that. You can just delete that one. Sometimes you do that with the bolt factory. It's okay. So we'll just do mesh, and it's going to remember most of your parameters you put in. So we'll just flip it again, 180. Don't hit enter, just click out. And we're kind of back to where we were. But notice, our shank is very, very tiny. So we may need to increase that, maybe even just to 40. Oh, and so notice here, it's kind of dipping over the edge. So just bring it back, somewhere in there is fine. Just want it a little bit bigger than your base of your bolt there. And I think we may have gone a little too wide with our bolt here. So let's just crank this down. Instead of 35, let's try like 33 maybe. And for this one, the minor should be less, so we'll do 32. And that's looking better. So really what we want is the clearance from this bag here to be able to, kind of be even, or not, we want the gauges or the edges right here on the outside of our roll. And we can always move this part of our dog here, but that's looking pretty good. So if you got that far, really good job. This is just the very beginning of our bolt here. But the main important thing is just to get the size right. If we go to the side view, go into see-through mode, that, the bolt is just right at the base of your roll there, and that the roll fits inside of the gauges. And before we dive into the next lesson, notice that our bolt is up here in the 3D printer. So just click and drag that into the flexible design, and that'll put your bolt down here. Now let's go ahead and save and jump into the next lesson.